Hello and welcome again to one of Hendrik's tutorials about SAP EWM. Before we get started, I just wanted to remind you that if you find these videos helpful and would like to see more of this content going forward, it's important that you let us know by subscribing to this channel. So take a second now to hit the subscribe button and help us sustain this channel in the future. And with that, I hand over to Hendrik and let you jump into the functional content part of the video. Happy learning!
Yes, welcome again from my side. Also, my name is Hendrik and this is a quick tutorial about the work center determination in the context of a deconsolidation step during goods receipt processes. So we will learn how we determine the bin that is used to place or store HUs to be deconsolidated in a further step afterwards. So the context we are in is an inbound process where we are using the process-oriented storage control. Now, you cannot use deconsolidation, at least not system supported, without the process-oriented storage control. So imagine a storage process step with multiple steps within the inbound environment, and deconsolidation is one of those steps. I will not explain deconsolidation itself. Physically, we are having objects like a pallet with multiple products initially, and we want to end up with multiple objects, for example, multiple pallets, then each having one single product, for example. There are different blogs and SAP help out there that explain the details about deconsolidation itself, the process and the functionality in EWM. I've linked them in the video description and also in my blog. So for those of you who are not familiar with the process itself, I would recommend study that up front and then come back to this video here. So what are we going to do within the next 10 to 15 minutes? First of all, we will look at the differences between rules-based and non-rules-based destination determination. That's a feature in the process-oriented storage control that is having an impact here about the way of determination. And then we will take a deep dive, including code review, into the rules-based option. And as you know it from most of my videos, at the end, we will also look at the possibilities for you to enhance the standard logic in a clean way. I will start this video before we actually go into details with a little bit of party knowledge, let's say, because I noticed something that might be interesting for you also to simplify the understanding about what we are talking about, because I noticed in the coding that the SAP developers or consultants, whoever developed this functionality, we're actually starting or talking about spreading here in this context instead of deconsolidation. So most places in the code you will find the term spread instead of deconsolidate. And at the end, for you to understand the process, it might even be the more reasonable term. Like you spread, as with my example from the beginning, you spread products. Let's say you have a pallet with multiple different products, you spread them onto different pallets. So spreading is something you might be more easier or intuitive for you to understand about what's physically actually happening here. So someone seems to be starting with spreading, but at the end, deconsolidation or deconsolidating is a term that SAP is using on the UI and the documentation. So from here onwards, I will talk about deconsolidation only, but for you, just a small hint, I thought that might be something that could be of an interest for you. But then let's start to really look into the functional and technical details. And I would like to start with the differentiation between rules-based and non-rules-based, because this is kind of a hidden feature in the process-oriented storage control. It's just a small, tiny flag that you have on the definition of the process step itself. And this flag is then used to decide whether we go for a non-rules-based logic. I will come to this in the next slides, where we are actually looking at the storage process data itself, or we go for rules-based logic, and here it differs between the different type of storage processes like packing or deconsolidation or quality inspection and so on. At the end, what we are doing here with a process-oriented storage control, when we define a specific storage process, let's say for deconsolidation, we determine the destination for the previous step in the storage process. For example, the unloading step. Yeah? The destination that you define here for deconsolidation is then the destination for the warehouse task that points from the previous step basically towards the deconsolidation step. And so the source for the unloading could be the TU or the door, and the destination could be the deconsolidation work center. There is indeed a SAP help for the rules-based flag, but it's not very helpful, honestly. It tells you that you can support the deconsolidation step here based on the rules-based logic, but it does not tell you how it works. So you need to search in different places, and you'll find some stuff which is not very helpful either. And then at the end, you need to try and error and maybe find out how it works, or you just proceed watching the video here. That will also help you, I guess. Let's take a deep dive into the determination logic to start with the non-rules-based one. So here, the first option that you have, and then I will go and explore the rules-based one. The first one is pretty simple, as I mentioned before. If we are talking about a non-rules-based determination, so the flag is not set here, the deconsolidation work center, respectively bin, is determined based on the deconsolidation process step itself, and it's sitting here in the destination type section and bin. So that would be then the destination for the storage process step that is sitting here before the deconsolidation step. So here, this would be the place where we actually deconsolidate then, logically. That is easy, I guess. So we can right away come to the rules-based logic. So you set the flag in the deconsolidation step that it's going to be rules-based. You can actually also maintain the destination data in the process step, but SAP will not consider it at all. So you set the flag. When you set the flag, then function module storage control p get will execute two steps. And you see that here. It's only being executed if the rules-based flag is not initial. So it executes in two steps. First of all, calling the function module to get route met to here. I will explain on the next slide what's happening here. And then in the second step, that's actually the determination of the destination then via function module spreading rules evaluate. So what's happening in the first step, that's fm to get route met to. And here we are actually preparing the input for the determination or for the evaluation of the determination rules in the next step. When I say preparing the input or the relevance check, I'm talking about the collection or selection of all warehouse tasks for the given HU and its sub-HUs. So we are reading basically all open product warehouse tasks with one of those HUs as a source. And then for those tasks, we determine the destination activity area. So we read the activity from the warehouse process type and then determine the activity area of the destination bins for this activity. So, and then we enrich the tasks that we determined before with this data and put this all into an internal table here. And this is then handed over to the second function module here. This is then the base for the rules evaluation. So keep in mind, after the first step, we have a table with warehouse task being enriched with evaluation relevant data. The second step, the most important function module here in the context of deconsolidation, work center determination, is the FM spreading rules evaluate. And here EWM executes 5 main checks in order to decide whether deconsolidation is relevant or not. First check, EWM checks, is there multiple products in the HU which are relevant for different type of quality inspections. So there may be one product relevant for sampling and the other one is not, or one product relevant for this type of quality inspection and this product for the other type of quality inspection. If this is the case, then deconsolidation is relevant and we leave the logic already because we know relevant, yes. If this is not the case, EWM checks whether the tasks that we determined before are pointing towards different activity areas. Maybe one task is pointing into the pallet storage area and one task is pointing into the bulk storage and one task to the shelf storage, and you have defined different activity areas. So if this is the case, already we know deconsolidation is relevant, leave the logic again. If this is not the case, EWM checks the deconsolidation groups of the destination bin. Now there's an option in customizing where you can assign different deconsolidation groups to storage bins or to a range of storage bins. It's just a, I think 8 or 10 digit number that you can assign, that you can fix to the bins. And if this group is different, then deconsolidation is also relevant. Check number 4 is relevant in case we have more than one warehouse task for the given source HU and the stock in the source HU is actually pre-allocated one. I won't explain in detail what pre-allocated stock is here. I will also put a link into the description, or you just check the EWM help. But if we have pre-allocated stock for one of the quants in our source HU, then deconsolidation is also relevant. And the last check that's going to be executed is based on the number of warehouse tasks for the HU itself, because there is a setting in the customizing where you can define a threshold for a maximum number of warehouse tasks per HU for the deconsolidation process. So let's say if you have more than 10 tasks for the given HU, then you have to deconsolidate. If it's less than 10 tasks, you can just go ahead and put away. So we have these 5 checks, and if one of them turns out to be true, we know deconsolidation is relevant and that we have to determine the deconsolidation work center for our process step here. So how is that then actually happening? And at this point, we have another important object, which is subroutine spreading station determine. And what this subroutine is actually doing is the evaluation of the deconsolidation station specification customizing. So there is a customizing table to determine the deconsolidation station. You have a key with the warehouse number, source storage type, HU type, group, and activity area, and then you can maintain a work center here right away, or a type, section, and bin. And then there is an access sequence in this subroutine, and it reads this determination table after having determined HU type, group, and source storage type for the given HU, and it first tries with a fully qualified key, then a second try without the destination activity area, so only with source storage type and HU type group, and then without the source storage type, so only HU type group and activity area, and at the very end only with the HU type group. And the objective is to return destination type, section, and bin. And this is either a work center and a bin. So if you gave a work center here, then it will return the bin that you have maintained in the work center master data. It can be done in the easy access menu. If you have not maintained a work center here, it will return the type, section, and or bin that you have maintained here. And you don't necessarily have to give a bin, you can only also give a type and a section only, and then the bin is being determined based on, for example, the consolidation group put away logic in the given storage type. That is the place here where the bin is being determined from the easy access work center master data table that I mentioned before. At the end, this function module, the spreading rules evaluate, returns then this storage type section and bin based on the determination table that I showed you before. And if this is not successful, so the determination table does not hold any record for my given HU type group, you showed you the source storage type, destination activity area, so there's nothing in the let's say you have maintained nothing in the table. That means we could not determine a destination. But that does not mean that EWM would, for example, then check the storage process step data that you maintained here. So if the rules-based flag is set and you would not maintain something in the determination table, then you will get an error message here. It will not skip the step. It will only skip the step in case this spreading rule evaluation turns out to deliver a negative result in terms of determination is not relevant. I showed you this 5 steps before with like different activity areas, different quality inspection types and number of warehouse tasks and so on. If this turns out to give a result that deconsolidation is not relevant, then the step of the process-oriented storage control is completely being skipped. So we don't do the deconsolidation step, but rather go to put away right away, for example. But if the evaluation of the rules tells you that the step as such is relevant, but EWM could not find something in the determination table, then we don't skip the step, but then you get an error message. So if the step is relevant, then you also need to maintain the data here. So for the rules-based option, as I told you, in the determination table now, and for the non-rules-based option, it has to be sitting in the storage process step itself. That's important to understand that yes, you can skip this step, rules-based, but only if none of these 5 checks turned out to be true. But if this is not the case, then you cannot skip it. At least not by just keeping the determination table empty. So to sum it up, for the non-rules-based logic, the step is always relevant and the destination data needs to be maintained in the process step itself. And for the rules-based logic, you might be able to skip the step in case deconsolidation turns out not to be relevant based on the rules that I showed you in this function module spreading rules evaluate. So you can actually skip the step, but if the evaluation rules tell you that deconsolidation is relevant, you have to maintain the destination data in the deconsolidation determination table where I showed you with the work center and the type section and bin, the one that you find in customizing. Last but not least, I promised to give you an option to include the custom logic here. So it might be the case that EWM determines the deconsolidation step to be relevant, but there's nothing in the deconsolidation work center determination table. Then you can jump in at the very end. You see we are still in the spreading rules evaluate function module. You can jump in here with body x work center deconsolidate decon det. And in this body you can add a custom logic for work center determination. So even if the deconsolidation determination table is empty in the customizing, you can jump in here, fill some data based on your own logic and return here type, section and bin, hand it over to the standard, and this function module will then give it back as a destination for the previous step of the storage process. That is the last thing that I wanted to communicate here. That is the end of this video. I hope that I gave a comprehensive summary of everything that is possible in terms of destination bin work center determination for deconsolidation step. I think you have a good picture now. You should understand the options that are there, and I wish you good luck of using that in the future in one of your projects. And last but not least, I hope to see you back in the next video. For this purpose, please make sure you hit the subscribe button, then you will receive a notification once the next one is being published. And till then, I wish you happy learning and good luck in your projects.